Welcome to the Workforce Connections podcast, where we discuss workforce development in Southern Nevada. Here's your host.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the WC podcast. Today, our guest is Victor Wakefield, Nevada State Superintendent of Public Instruction for the Nevada Department of Education. We're very excited to have you here, Victor. I know we've been planning this for a while. Welcome.
Thank you for having me today.
So we like to start the podcast by you sharing with our audience, with our listeners and viewers, a little bit about you, where you grew up, where you were born, where you grew up, went to school. Perhaps takes us to all the way to your first job, maybe.
Okay, so
That's
starting way back.
Yes.
So I was born and raised in Ann Arbor, Michigan, because my dad's life had been changed by education. So he was a first-generation college student in Ohio. And then as a medical student in Toledo, he was given the opportunity to do a training rotation at the University of Michigan. But that couple months turned into a 40-year-long career at the University of Michigan. So I grew up in the shadows of the university. Childhood, it's a big recipe, right? You don't know which ingredients have the most impact on you. But a couple things that come to mind that I always reflect on are my religious faith. So that was important in my family. And my older brother, I have one older brother. He's a diocesan priest, actually, in the D.C. area. I went to great schools. I went to Ann Arbor Pioneer High School, had life-changing teachers. I think about my AP U.S. History teacher and my creative writing teacher in particular for very different reasons. My AP U.S. History teacher said, if you work as hard as you can and you do everything you're asked to do, we will get you a 5 on that AP test, and it will be credit-bearing for college. Wow. I learned how to write a 25-page research paper in that class. I fell in love with the humanities, with history. That's actually what I studied in college. And then creative writing on that course was about self-expression. It was, you're growing in your identity as a high school student. It's very different, but still so influential for me. The other thing I'll highlight from growing up is just try to do all the activities that I could, leadership activities, but especially sports. We talked a little bit about water polo before we started taping here. And by high school, I honed in on aquatic sports, so swimming and water polo. And I reached my goal of playing Division I collegiate water polo at Princeton. So that was where I went to undergraduate.
Wow, a tiger.
Yeah, very good.
Wow.
And so I share that, though, also because when my trajectory plateaued and my Olympic aspirations were fading, I had this vague sort of sense, okay, I think I'll go to law school and become a lawyer. But I was really fortunate. I got an internship through Princeton and Civic Service internship program to teach middle school in East Harlem, New York, the summer before my senior year. And I'll never forget my roommates, who were teammates of mine, walked to their finance internships. We were living, in Lower Manhattan, and I got on the 6 train and went more than 100 blocks up east side of Manhattan all the way to East Harlem, taught middle school, and two big lessons that stick with me to this day came through that internship. One is that education opportunities are not equally distributed in our country. I knew that intellectually, I knew that through research, but I saw it firsthand in the community where my school was and the families and students. And then also that a school could be path-changing for students. And that internship sparked my interest in joining Teach for America. So after I graduated, my first job after graduation was as a middle school English teacher. I came back to the Midwest. I was in the Chicago area, taught in Gary, Indiana, just south of Chicago, and was a basketball coach. Sports I shared were important to me. English teacher, social studies teacher, and saw similar themes to that internship. I saw that my students had a lot of barriers in their paths, but that they could accomplish anything that they put their minds and hearts into, and saw what's possible for young people when they get the kind of expectations and support and connection to school that they deserve. So that was my first job after college, and it really shaped everything that I did afterward. And I never did the law school thing because I committed to education leadership as my career.
That's very cool. And we'll continue the professional journey. When you mentioned Gary, Indiana, I immediately thought about the Jackson 5. Like, that's where they're from, right?
It is. In fact, we could do a tour and see the house, and it was always marked, and it was a big,
Wow. And why not a Wolverine? Because having grown in the shadows of the university, was that never a choice?
That was a big consideration. Wow. Still bleed blue, and that's my college football love and team. But it was actually, they had a club water polo program. They didn't have a varsity program, so that was part of the reason so in water polo, you either go to the West Coast or to the Northeast if you want to play Division I water polo, largely.
And that's what drove the
Yeah, it was a big part of my identity at the time and
very cool
motivation.
So let's finish that professional journey, because you took us to your first job, and you can sense the passion for teaching that you have, and I'm guessing there are several steps from there to being Nevada Superintendent of Public Education. So kind of complete that loop for us. Tell us about that rest of that journey to where you are now.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so that teaching would have been about 20 years ago for me, and I guess I would point to 3 different big junctures in my path to now why I'm here as the state superintendent and blessed to have this role. The first is that 15 years ago, I was able to lead the teacher preparation program, Teach for America, for the state of Nevada, and it brought me out to Las Vegas. I was supporting 100, or at the time, 250 first and second year educators all across Clark County, both CCSD and public charter schools. And that experience created my obsession with excellent teaching and learning. I saw the patterns. I saw what it took to train. I saw, how to partner with principals. That also got me really connected and networked into the ecosystem here. It's how I met many people. For example, I think we were in the building with the chamber, correct? So I was able to do the Leadership Las Vegas program as an example, or the Leadership Institute of Nevada, which was at the time in the Public Ed Foundation. The second thing that really put me on this path was that I was appointed to the State Board of Education in 2015 by then Governor Sandoval, and really found this passion and interest in education policy, or just policy in general. And then was, after that, a senior fellow with the Gwynn Center, and then did my dissertation research on some of the education reforms that were happening in Nevada. And in 2015, that was also a really big session for education, lots of bills. I know we met through Dale Archiaga initially. He was instrumental in those. And so I got to serve in that governance role, helping to implement, oversee so many education reforms at the time. And then the third thing that helped me to feel prepared and interested in this role was my management and leadership experience. So I eventually grew into a national leader at Teach for America, was the vice president for regions and then special projects. And that's where I learned about building high-performing teams and setting budgets and strategy work. And so to me, those all things together there's not a day that goes by where I don't have to lean into all those different pieces. And so those would be some of the highlights on a more windy path than that, but those would be some of the call outs.
They got you to this step, which you're in this role 8 months now.
Yes. So I started thinking seriously about coming back to Nevada about a year ago when the role opened up, when former state superintendent Ebert became the Clark County Schools superintendent, and was blessed to be able to put forward my candidacy and share those experiences and get the unanimous support of the State Board of Education. Their job is to put 3 names forward to the governor, and then was entrusted with the appointment from Governor Lombardo and started November 1st in my role. Yeah,
that's awesome. And I know, again, we met during that time, but it's common today to do Zooms for meetings and conduct business remotely. And so today's even though we feel we knew each other, it's the first time we've ever shaken hands and met in person. So
yeah, I was surprised by that. For some reason, I thought I'd at least met you at something or another, because you're so kind to invite me to things, and I work so closely with Irene Bustamante-Adams and so many of the other hats she wears.
Yeah, and maybe that's what I feel, that you've been connected to us, especially through Irene, but you and I had not yet met in person. So I do know that you've recently completed your listening tour, where you're out there sharing, the strategic priorities for education. And you visited with a lot of folks. And so what are the highlights of those conversations? What stood out to you most from that listening tour?
Well, slightly correct you. The listening tour really helped to develop the priorities.
Okay.
Right. Because to me, it's so important to understand the lived experience, the things that districts, especially with the diversity of Nevada. For example, I was in a district with an enrollment of 400 students, and a district with the enrollment of 280,000 students, right, in Clark County.
Yeah.
And so I crisscrossed the state, made a real priority out of this, was able to be in 12 of our 17 school districts, 18 when you include the charter authority, and I would say, there were 3 macro trends that I'll share, and then I'll also speak a little bit about the priorities that you mentioned. So number one, it was very clear to me that we have a ton of bright spots that need to be scaled out and reach more students. So whether that was CTE programs that I saw across almost every school district visit I did, or really excellent instruction and great curriculum use. It's happening in pockets, and we need that to reach scale if we want to see our education system become world-class. Secondly, many of the education leaders that I connected with, and also educators, frontline, teachers, and students were saying this too, like we're all adopting to a new normal. So what I mean by that is, of course, technology. How is AI a tool for positive use in the classroom? Yeah. Or student engagement coming out of COVID, issues of absenteeism, just how to connect with this generation of students, or enrollment trends. So this is the first time in my history with Nevada to see that instead of grow, we actually have a flat and slightly declining student enrollment, which is different than our state's overall population growth. But for students, it is slightly declining now on a 5-year trend. So those were really interesting insights. And then in terms of our priorities, I would say I'll try to bring a few of them to life for you, if that's okay. So yeah. I heard so clearly from trustees, and I'll also share that for every visit I did, I had a structure. So we spent time with students and educators in school visits. I also had roundtables with trustees in each district and one-on-one time with the superintendent, because I need that relationship and that trust. So if they have needs or we can do better at the state level, that we can pick up the phone. Yeah. And then what that did is it shaped our priorities. So I'll start with one trend that was so clear and so loud to me was our students, their parents, our trustees expect our kids to learn to read, to learn to do fractions, to learn how to pay attention. You hear that word attendance, right, in the same stem as attention, right? And the reality is in our state today, if you take 3rd through 8th graders, less than half are proficient in reading at the grade level that we've set our standards are set at. In math, it's actually a little bit more bleak. About a third of our kids in middle school are actually at that bar of proficiency. So that trend is why our first priority at a state level is strong foundations, ensuring that every student has access to great teaching and learning, great resources and curriculum, and excellent teaching so that they can gain those solid foundations that all the deeper learning builds on. This is why we're focused on pre-K expansion, on strong instructional materials and professional learning, and on interventions for students. A second priority area is about ensuring that the promise of education is fulfilled for students, that if they do everything we ask them to do, K through 12, that on the other side, they will have opportunity, whether that's employment in your wheelhouse, enlistment, enrollment. And while our graduation rate has been going up, which is something to be proud of, we also have an above average rate of disconnected youth as a state, right? Yeah. Research that I know that your organization knows a lot about. Yeah. And so that is why we have an empowering pathways priority. So priority 2 is empowering pathways. And this is about ensuring that young people gain the sense of direction and agency and skills to be able to thrive as they leave the K-12 system and transition into a life of thriving. The third priority, I'd say, was based upon this very clear trend around ensuring that young people are seen and valued and pushed and supported by educators in their school. So that is why we have a equipped educators and leaders priority. And we will round out our 5 strategic priorities with, of course, informed and engaged families and also aligned systems. So that way we can create more coherence across the state. So those are the 5 NDE strategic priorities that came out of our listening tour.
Very comprehensive summary there. I think about, how the industries are evolving here. You mentioned AI, but automation and robotics also has changed how manufacturing is done. It's changing, how a lot of things. Is there a particular way that that you're focusing on for the Nevada's education system to keep up, if you will, with that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this I love the question. The hockey analogy, I know I'm back in, Golden Knights town here, is we want to know where the puck is going, right, with education.
A Wayne Gretzky quote, right?
Yeah, there we go. And for us, so I can kind of drill down more into our empowering pathways priority. First is we want to make sure that every young person has a plan for their future. There's always been, or at least recently, there's been academic plans, but we want to see that to become more of a broader academic, but also career planning. And we need that exposure to start earlier for young people, because by middle school, sometimes they have to make choices around what high school they're going to attend, what CTE program to pursue. And while they shouldn't ever get stuck, they should have exposure so they can have good choices, informed choices. The second thing in our Empowering Pathways priority is about expanding high-wage, high-demand career-aligned opportunities, especially CTE opportunities. And so that's got to be work alongside of organizations like yours and Dieter and others that help us really know where is the economy going. Let's make sure that the programs that young people have access to can provide an industry-recognized credential and so forth. And then the third area for that priority is about sort of that graduation milestone. I've heard a lot in my listening tour that sometimes the credits that students earn may or may not get accepted at certain institutions. We want to line up those, graduation requirements, the way that we work with our NSHE partners. Again, back to the workforce connection, we want to make sure that milestone, right? It's not the destination because it's about the start of their adult life, but that it really converts. We want every student to leave with a first step or a jump start into what they're doing next. And so we want to make sure that those pathways into enlistment, enrollment, or employment are stronger for our K-12 system.
I want to share two things to frame my next question. Number one, you mentioned the Opportunity Youth Coalition, if you will, that is responding to that issue that you mentioned, roughly 40,000 young people between the ages of 18 or 16 and 24. Yeah, who are not connected with education, their skill acquisition, or meaningful employment, and so plugged out of the economy, as you said. And so I wanted to share with you that a lot of progress has been made. As you mentioned, I remember the first meeting 2 years ago was just 3 organizations in a room. Now there's 80 organizations pushing in that coalition. But more importantly, we have launched a workforce intermediary here in town that's going to help us scale the work by raising funds. And so the good news is that we had 17, some of them national funders here in our facilities a week ago, discussing that about the investments that we would like to see them make in solving this issue. The other thing I wanted to share to frame the question is we also have 7 industry sector partnerships that we convene here in Southern Nevada for our emerging industries, if you will, that are guided by our comprehensive economic development strategy from our region. We work closely with the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance and the Chambers of Commerce to do this work. But again, employers are a key piece, and that's why I mentioned the industry sector partnerships, because we are learning so much from employers. And you mentioned it just a second ago, how important it is to be able to make sure that the programs and the CTEs are aligned with employer needs. So here goes the question. How can those partners, the education partners, the workforce partners, and employers, do things like CTE programming? How can we specifically work better together moving forward? Because obviously we haven't done the best job in the past, but now there's a great focus. The education priorities you mentioned are great. How can we work better with employers? How can they play a bigger role in making sure that what we're producing is aligned to their needs?
First, congratulations on the great progress. I was in part drawn to coming back to Nevada, not only because of the place of great possibility and need, but also because I saw this alignment, right? That there was actually bipartisan education reforms being passed, strong leaders in key roles. So the way you're describing that trajectory from a couple of years ago to now is really helpful for me to learn just what happens when you can bring focused attention, bring the right people around the table. So I'd first start with keep doing exactly what you're doing. 3 ideas that I also, in this space, I'm also learning. So I think when I share these, I don't suggest that they're not have been done or tried before, or that maybe I can get closer to some of the pilots or some of the efforts. The first is around data. So the Commission on Innovation and Excellence, for example, just put forward a recommendation that I really liked, which was we have this NPower longitudinal data system, but it's dependent on voluntary data submissions from NDE, from my organization, from Dieter, from NSHE. It's got to be mandatory. I get it's upfront cost, but if you got to have all the good data to be able to know how are our young people doing as they progress through their career. States that are able to look at long-term earnings, for example, can make really smart decisions around some of the programming pieces, some of the education pieces. So I'd say the data infrastructure comes to mind, or data comes to mind. Infrastructure also comes to mind. I'm trying to think of, what this looks like to help our districts and schools facilitate the alignment around the high need, high demand career paths, getting those industry recognized credentials, just creating much more of the space, support, resourcing, right? So data infrastructure, and then the actual programming itself. So this is really where our sweet spot is in helping to guide and direct our schools and districts, and just making sure that there's no barriers within the actual school day. Is there things we have to shift in our school calendar? Are there any ways to help schools be more agile or nimble about work-based learning opportunities? How do we ensure that employer partners are really encouraged and it's not burdensome, right? Because I get the sense that there's a real effort to want to do this, but we also have to make sure that it is streamlined and comes together effectively.
Very good. So the strategies that you've mentioned, I think, have the fuel to make it happen. What are some of the key partners that are already moving the needle, Victor? Is there a few key partners that you feel are actually helping put those strategies on the ground where the rubber meets the road and moving the needle?
Key partners. This is an ecosystem play, and I always worry about partner questions because you want to highlight one and then you end up
leaving somebody out.
Yeah. So I just think for my role, and I think kind of trying to think systematically about this, I'd start with actually the state level legislative commissions and councils. So Commission on School Funding, Commission on Innovation and Excellence, others that actually are playing a really important role advancing policy for the state. We also, though, want to see a stronger professional development and school support ecosystem at the state level. This is one of the big credit to that SB 460 bill, bipartisan legislation, Majority Leader and Governor Lombardo last session, because it has accountability measures and literacy reforms, but it also creates the state's first education service center. So it's an actual body that's all about supporting our school districts and doing it in a much more aligned way. And the ESC, the Education Service Center, is starting to work with our regional RPDPs, regional professional development programs that support our districts. So I'd say we at the state level want to make sure that we're not only doing a good job as the regulator and holding ourselves accountable, but also offering support to help districts do that. Other partners that come to mind, of course, there's great organizations that support the professionals out there. Yeah. So our teachers unions, I've gotten to know the NAS group, the Nevada Association of School Superintendents, NASB, the Nevada Association of School Boards. Shout out there to president of that organization, Irene Bustamante Adams. Yep. So those organizations make a big difference, and they really help direct the energy of the folks that the people that do the heavy lifting and do the work. One other partnership thing I'll share is I believe excellent districts and schools are all about building partnerships. So I'll give you a really concrete example. Major props to the Clark County School District and the Clark County Education Association. They're doing a pilot program for a feeder pattern set of schools. So these are schools elementary that feed into the middle to the high school, schools that have long time been rated low in the school frameworks, meaning that we aren't seeing the level of proficiency or growth that we want to see for young people. They brought together partners around the table. They asked NDE to help with this effort, UNLV, because there's a whole teacher pipeline and preparation play there. They've invited Opportunity 180, a nonprofit partner. And so you're seeing efforts, and we said yes to helping with this effort because it's so research-based, and they actually have a intervention plan that is for, these are the key investments we're going to make at these set of schools. So I share that as an example, not because of just the education strategies, but it's a partnership play there, and nobody can do this alone. I also, of course, have to give some of the nonprofit partners their love here. This is where I will get in trouble for leaving somebody out, but I have personal experience with the Chamber and the Leadership Las Vegas, the Leadership Institute. Teach for America is doing good work. The Gwynn Center is doing good work. Yeah. And so I think that the risk in sharing an answer like this is that I need a list and a page to go on and on, but
because you called it a large ecosystem, and it's true. So one of the things I think that I really wanted to make sure happened today, Victor, was for our employers, those members of our industry sector partnerships, our business partners, the members of the Vegas Chamber and the other chambers of commerce here and that we work with that are listening today. What would your message be to them about engaging more or in a different way or in a better, more effective way with the schools?
Better. So more is going to be better in this case, period. We are together responsible for building that future workforce for our state. And so the more opportunities to lean into work-based learning experiences, sponsoring organizations. I was at the Northwest Career and Technical Academy's Capstone Day at the end of this past year and was blown away. The students, what they had created in terms of their projects, but also talking to the principal about how many partnerships it takes to be able to create something like that was just tremendous. And so I think that students don't know what the opportunities are if they're not exposed to them. And we have such a, I think, profound responsibility back to the Empowering Pathways priority I shared of helping students to gain awareness of what the career sectors of the future are going to look like. And then also to create concrete pathways and programs that can give them good first step into a good paying job right away, or the chance to shadow, apprentice, gain real experience that they can take to market when they're successful in school and beyond.
One of the things, Victor, that we found through our, again, a more increased relationship and commitment from employers was that there was this NRS or this law until not this past session last year, but 3 years ago, it was finally changed. But and I wasn't aware of it, but here in Clark County, a Clark County school district student, when they went to get a work experience and internship into a business, there was a law in the books that said that everybody in that business needed to have, a background check so that, and I know that the reasons might be pure for safety. And when that business has 5 people, maybe it's doable. But if that business is the Bellagio and it has 10,000 people, and so thank goodness that was solved. Now it's only the immediate person that the student is interacting with that has to have that background check. But I think absolutely for that to happen, for the opportunities for young people, students to be in the businesses, we also have to be mindful about the policies that might be in place that's keeping that from happening.
And the well-intended ones, right? That might just have some sort of unintended consequence. And so it's again back to this idea of partnership, ecosystem dialogue, because we have to know that as legislators are considering bills, as we're doing our work to implement or do regulations, that we can see those things and have the conversation with common goals, our students' success, just to make sure that, again, a really well-intentioned effort doesn't create unintended negative consequences.
Yeah, and I'll send a shout out to the legislator who carried that. Was Erica Mosca who carried that change, and it's helping us now, again, get employers more involved with providing those opportunities for the students. So if you were to look ahead, Victor, to the future, I know, again, and we can talk about a 10-year, a 5-year picture, you let us know. But if you look into the future, what do you see? What's your vision? Again, as you said, you can't do it alone. Nobody can. You need that whole ecosystem to pull together. But if everything went well according to plan, what do you see? What improvements do you see for Nevada 5-10 years from now?
Gosh. Well, it's great that you mentioned Erica Mosca, because I feel like some of this vision, especially around the idea of career-connected learning, helping young people to have opportunities. She also passed a different bill in the last session that made the college and career readiness diploma the default, not the thing you had students have to opt into because of access and equity for all students. So we just really appreciate efforts that are grounded in real experience and also that have such a profound impact on our students. At ND, our vision for education is that young people are building knowledge of the world. It's such an obvious thought, but actually there's so much research behind. Actually, it's knowledge building curriculum, and understanding what you're reading is how you gain literacy as well. Number 2, that they're engaging with grade level content. This is, and regardless of zip code or geography. And you say, again, it's an obvious thought, but actually when you go and actually shadow students, too often they're succeeding on the assignments that they're given, but it's actually not at the rigor of the grade level. The third is we want to see them solving complex problems together. And then we want to see them pursuing their vision for their future through a strong pathway to college, career, or enlistment. And so for us, bringing that vision, that student-centered vision, that's that is driving everything that we're doing at NDE. And then right now, we're in the process of building out our plan and our indicators. So then we would know, okay, if we were to make progress against that, how might we see growth in proficiencies or in graduation rates or in college completion or first job access over that kind of 5 or 10 year clip. So we're laser focused on this vision. We've gotten a lot of feedback that it resonates, and we're in the process of figuring out how to create the plan that will enable us to reach that vision.
Well, I like that picture. Let's make sure that we all help.
With your help.
We'll to make it happen. Yeah, we need to help. But we've been talking about work and business all this time, and I sense that your work goes way beyond a 40-hour week, work week. And so, but when you're not working, Victor, or volunteering, when hopefully you're taking that time to recharge your batteries, refill your cup, re-energize, what hobbies, activities help you do that? How do you make sure that, you can come back on Monday morning and do it all over again?
Well, I can't call this a hobby because it's way more than that, but how I spend every minute I possibly can outside of this beautiful job I have is as a father. So I have two little ones, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And so,
that's a full plate.
It is. And I would say though, what I've also learned, and I like the quote, I forget the author, but you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And so for me, that I've taken that very seriously in my personal life as well. So building routines and habits that can create joyful and good, especially with little ones, peaceful experiences. So a good example of that is we have this now tradition of going swimming first thing Sunday mornings, even before we go to mass, because we're in Las Vegas and it's already it's already good weather to go swimming. So that's also the morning I can give my incredible wife a reprieve and she can sleep in that morning. So we're at the pool, and I talked about my love of all things aquatics earlier. So that comes to mind. The outdoors are really important to our family. Staying and being an active reader, just, picking the book, the physical book over the scrolling or the social media. Yeah. It's good for our kids. We need to push that message. It's good for us as adults. Yeah. And then the only other thing that I would add on the hobbies front is we just love sports so much in our family, and we're talking during the World Cup right now. So that has really been fun to, Messi had his hat trick last night.
Amazing.
Yep. So those are some of the things for me.
That's great. Do you think if you were to guess those two children, do we have an athlete in the future, soccer, water polo, something?
Well, they are like fish in that pool.
Wow.
So, and we're trying, so, and then my better half, my wife was a collegiate soccer player. So it's funny you asked it that way.
That's cool.
But whatever they choose, as long as they're healthy and making good choices, right? That's our focus right now with our kids. So.
If you haven't known, you probably do, but the swimming community here, and I know because my daughter, one of her patients, she's a physical therapist, and one of her patients is Katie Grimes, silver medalist in the Paris Olympics, Nevadan. And so they have a club called the Sandpipers. And so when your kids come of age, that's probably a club.
I've heard about the Sandpipers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Probably a club you want them to, to be involved with.
Perhaps. Yeah. Thank you for saying
many of them are on the Olympic, USA Olympic team. So Victor, if we have somebody who's listening to us now, an 18-year-old who is pondering perhaps a career in education, who maybe one day wants to be a teacher, a principal, a state superintendent, what advice would you give that young person?
Enter education. It is the absolute best place to contribute to your immediate community, to your state, to your country. It's the most fulfilling work that you could possibly choose. It's also, I think, a tremendous act of leadership to teach. You're going to gain transferable skills, things AI will never replace. Teaching is, there's not a day that goes by that I don't draw back to my time as a middle school teacher. And when I think about nerves I have of speaking at the legislature or doing a podcast like this, I just think, gosh, it's easier than when I was teaching middle school.
Yeah, I bet.
And then I would say that we're at a special time as a state where we have coalesced around the importance of this pipeline. So there are also really good opportunities. At NDE, we have an educator ambassadors program, so folks can get mentorship to actually understand all the routes out there and have somebody they can stay in touch with as they think about licensure, think about their programs. There's a teaching pathways program that has been really successful, helping high schoolers with interest begin that journey and then have a subsidized, successful college experience so that they can then enter teaching here. It's just I don't know how to give a stronger endorsement that education is the best choice I ever made. Yep. And I've never found a teacher who didn't. And there's things we can improve about the teaching conditions and the salary as well, but help us create that change. Help us bring your talents and passion to the classroom, and you won't regret it.
Yeah, it's hard to find a profession that has that much impact on people. That, like you say, we all think about that teacher that gave us something that changed our life, inspired us to be something, to do something a different way. So yeah, it's the there's a lot of what would I say? It's a profession with so many rewards, and hopefully we can make it better monetary too. But so much rich reward, I think, in that profession. So thank you for that advice for the young people. Before we come to an end of the podcast, we give you a chance to plug in any kind of events that the Nevada State Department of Education might have, or school districts, or anything you're involved with. Is there something that you want people to know about, get involved, participate in?
Okay, so two things come to mind. And so the first is, as I mentioned earlier, we're developing our state's strategic improvement plan. The acronym used is the STIP. It takes the priorities that I mentioned earlier and actually maps them out into 5-year goals, initiatives. When we have a draft of that, we actually have public review processes, and it's part of our NRS. It's a wonderful, piece of our law. Mm-hmm. And so I want to flag that, plug that. Shout out to the hardworking team at NDE working to develop our plans while they're also doing the hard work of executing every day. Yeah. But so we'll have opportunities to weigh in, to see and bring to life what we are really focused on there. And we want comment, we want engagement. So that's one. The second thing I would say is we are hiring at NDE. So I don't know if I'm allowed to shout that out.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So we have two senior as they get roles that will be on a cabinet with me that we are beginning to search for. One's in finance, one is in our chief strategy officer. We also partnerships. Thanks to the generosity of some philanthropy support and a partnership with Opportunity 180, we actually have a talent and leadership initiative at NDE where we have our first class of summer interns they just started last week, and they are an exceptional group that's contributing to real time work and also gaining exposure to what it's like to lead at a state level. These are primarily educators that are using their summer in this really powerful way. We are, though, also hiring a small group of fellows that will be on a year-long fellowship. And so I want to plug that opportunity as well. And we are putting all this through our NDE website, through our LinkedIn post. And so come help us shape the plan and also join the team at NDE.
Is there a URL or a website that we can put on the screen and our listeners can hear so they can find that information?
Absolutely. So the Nevada Department of Education website and then the Nevada Department of Education's LinkedIn are the two that I would say, and I can give you the actual www right after this so Great. You can put it on the screen.
Awesome. Well, Victor, it's been a pleasure having you, hearing about the priorities. It sounds like the listening tour went really well. And you have my commitment that Workforce Connections, our organization, will do its part in this ecosystem that it's going to take for us to make education better in Nevada to meet the talent needs of our employer community. So,
thank you for the time. This has been a great conversation, and I can't wait to follow up at some point with the progress against those priorities in the plan.
We'll have you back. All right, Victor. Thank you. Well, that's it for another episode of the WC Podcast. We want to thank all the people behind the scenes that make this happen, and we want to see you at the next episode. So until then, stay safe. Victor, thank you for staying over to do our bonus segment, In the Hot Seat. Are you ready?
Do I have a choice?
No.
Okay.
So the first section is called Your Favorites. We start very easy. I'm going to give you a category, and you're going to give me your favorite thing in that category. So easy one. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food, chicken adobo that my wife makes.
Ooh, favorite beverage with dinner?
A bubbly.
Favorite dessert after dinner?
So I'm not a sweets guy. It's a weird thing. It's because I worked at Dairy Queen as a kid and had too much ice cream.
Wow.
Yeah.
Favorite way to start your day?
Oh, I'm now doing this little wake up jog with our dog around the block, and even before my coffee. It's a new thing.
Awesome. Yep. Favorite way to unwind after a long day?
Just time with the kids.
Favorite hobby or weekend activity?
Right now, it's the Sunday morning swimming session. It's very special.
I love that. Family. Favorite vacation spot
in the world ever? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, Hawaii.
Hawaii. Yeah. Favorite holiday?
Oh, Thanksgiving.
Favorite car you've ever owned?
My first car was a Volkswagen Cabrio, Jazz Blue. Imagine big high school, college water polo players in this tiny little car. Very fun.
Wow, that sounds fun. Favorite college sports team?
Michigan Wolverines.
Favorite professional sports team?
Oh my gosh, of course, all the Nevada teams now, of course.
Yep. You've made it through your favorites. The second section is called Tough Choices. It gets a little harder, but we hope that you still can pick one. Obviously, both is still a choice you can have. You ready?
No.
Princeton Tigers or Johns Hopkins Blue Jays?
For sports, Princeton Tigers.
Red Rock Canyon or Lake Tahoe?
Oh, I got engaged at Red Rock Canyon. It's got to be Red Rock Canyon.
Vacation or staycation?
Vacation.
Fly or drive there?
Depends. Drive. We've got little kids right now.
Hotel or Airbnb?
Oh, Airbnb. We got little kids right now. Easier.
When you retire one day, hopefully that's still a ways. When you retire, will it be on a ranch or in the city?
Oh, wow. Between a ranch.
A day by the ocean or hiking in the mountains?
Okay, how can you pick between the two best things? Ocean.
Tough choices.
Ocean.
Ability to fly or breathe underwater?
Oh, I spent enough time underwater and fly.
Ability to speak with animals or speak any foreign language?
Foreign language.
Have more time or have more money?
Time.
This is where it gets really hard, Victor. Truth or kindness?
I think being true, honest is kind.
Actions or words?
Actions.
Justice or grace?
Oh, wow. Well, grace. We all need it.
You made it through tough choices. The last segment is called Finish the Sentence. I'm going to give you 90%, and you're going to finish it for me. Are you ready? Victor, if you could visit any place in the world, it would be?
Any place in the world, it would be Madagascar.
The best part about living here in Nevada is?
Everything.
Your favorite thing about your job as Nevada State Superintendent of Public Instruction is?
The responsibility of our kids' futures.
If you could travel back in time to any time you would travel to?
Paris in the, I'm going to butcher the decade, but Paris in the 50s or 60s.
Nice. 3 words that describe you, Victor, are?
Driven, growing, and committed.
Very good. And doing the WC podcast here with us today was?
It was excellent.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing our bonus segment with us today.